So welcome to the Chamber's primary election forum for candidates for our local constitutional offices. The Chamber holds special forum luncheons during election years so that our audience may have the opportunity to hear from those candidates in the primary election to help you make more informed voting choices in August. We would like to recognize Digital Hound Media for their video services in filming today's forum, sponsored by Meek Real Estate. Okay, we are now going to get started with the program, and I will turn the microphone over to our MC, Dr. Jim Harvey, to begin the forum.
Thank you. Good morning. Welcome to the Citrus County Primary Forum for the Board of County Commissioners. This event has been organized by the subcommittee of the Governmental Affairs Committee of the Chamber to provide an exclusive opportunity for Chamber members to hear from the candidates who will be competing in the August primary. In fact, there are only Republican candidates running for the Board of County Commissioners in District 1 and District 3. There will be a universal primary for these seats, meaning all voters, whether you're Republican, Democrat, MPA, or other, will choose from these candidates during the primary, and the winner of the primary will be the winner of the election for their respective seats. With respect to District 5, Holly Davis, who is running again for District 5 seat, has no primary opponent and therefore is not participating in this forum. She does have an opponent in the general election, so that race will be decided in November. We want to thank all of the candidates that have consented to be part of today's forum. To my right, Curtis Bryant and Jeff Kennard, running for Board of County Commissioners in District 1. And to my left, Janet Barrick and Ruthie Davis-Schlaboff running for Board of County Commissioners District 3. The candidates were previously made aware that there'll be no opening statements today. Instead, we'll go directly into the questions, but conclude the questions by giving each of them 2 minutes to do a closing statement. As in previous forums, we have a timer for the questions, and Gary Mock is sitting here in front, and Gary has 2 signs. One says 30 seconds remaining, and the other is time up or we're throwing you out. He'll hold those cards up for each of the questions in the direction of the candidates. The moderators for this forum are sitting here in front as well. Garrett Adkins, who's a current member of the Board of Directors of the Chamber, and Grace Hindesbach, a former board member, is also participating today. The order in which the candidates will respond to questions as well as give their closing statements will be done randomly. I have a secret. They call it the candidate bucket. This is the secret bucket, and we've kept it under lock and key. So let's get started. The following questions for our candidates were drawn up by the Chamber's Government Affairs Committee and input from Chamber membership, and also as well as our forum moderators. Each of you will have the opportunity to give 1-minute response to each question. We will make a random choice of the order of the respondents by pulling the order out of this bucket. So let's begin. I'm going to ask Garrett to ask the first question, and then I'll draw the order in which you'll answer the questions. So Garrett, if you go ahead.
All right. With the ever-increasing needs of the county and our citizens, what are your plans to balance the budget?
Okay, we're going to start with District 3. Janet will go first, then Ruthie, and in District 1, Jeff will go first, and Curtis, you'll go second. Janet?
When it comes to balancing the budget, I would go through it line by line and see if it's a necessary need for that department or that constitutional, and if there can be something cut. If not, I will try to keep the millage as low as possible, even if it has to be raised, but as low as possible to meet the needs of the county as opposed to anything else. We have certain things that need to be done, and that's important to everyone in the county. And if it does cost more money, that's going to happen. And it should be explained to the people, these are our needs and we need to meet them, and this is why it's costing this much more. If not, then it should be cut.
Ruthie?
Thank you. For many years, living here as a taxpayer, almost 31 years, I've felt that the millage should really not be touched. And that's how you have a good, strong budget. You have to look at it like a ship on a sea. It ebbs and flows with the economy. This last year, we had to raise the millage. The last budget cycle. This budget cycle, I believe the board is in agreement to not raise the millage. We need to look at what we have, look at our reserves, make sure they're within line of what is recommended by the state, and continue the programs that work. The biggest thing is trying to make sure that the different departments are fully funded because, as you know, for many years, our road resurfacing was not funded. We have been able to move it up to, I think, 14 million now, so we're on a 25-year cycle. So we have to look at what's really important to the citizens. I'm good with money. I'm good with, I've had 3 years to, time's up.
She
That's
takes threats
ridiculous.
literally. Jeff, you can go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Our budget is balanced, and it's been balanced every year since I was elected in 2016. In fact, it's required to be balanced. Up until the last 2 years, we have decreased the millage rate and actually have put additional monies left over into reserves. We currently have the maximum allowed by state statute in our reserves. Our bond rating is, our Moody's bond rating is a AA3, which is extraordinarily high for a county our size. So we've done very, very well. This board has been very responsible with the public checkbook. We've paid money, we've allocated money where we need to, we've cut expenses where we could, and we have a balanced budget. We will have a balanced budget again this year. So we're looking forward to taking care of some of the infrastructure needs that our community has. We've continued to put money into those things. Thank you.
Curtis?
So as Dr. Kennard said, we've always had a balanced budget. So that I don't think is necessarily a fair question to ask because it's always been balanced. It's required to be balanced. However, what we need to do as commissioners is we need to do forward thinking. We need to think about what our needs are going to be in the future and start planning that today so that we're not doing a year-to-year basis when we're looking at all these different projects. We need to look at the growth. Where is the growth going? Where is it coming from? We need to look at sources of revenue, different alternative methods, grants, state grants, things that aren't costing taxpayer dollars for those options. So we just need to have better planning in place, look at long-term thinking, and that will help us make those decisions going forward.
Thank you. Grace, will you ask the second question, please?
What are the greatest infrastructure needs of the county, and how do you prioritize them?
All right, the order will be District 1 will go first with Curtis and then Jeff, and then in District 3, Ruthie, then Janet.
So the greatest need, everybody tells me, and we've all noticed it, is the roads. The drive through Citrus County, a lot of the roads were at capacity, we're waiting in lines. A lot of the roads are falling apart. For years, the board hasn't prioritized that as a priority. This is the first year that they've actually looked at that and said, hey, look, we need to make something happen. So my plan when elected is I want to focus on the road resurfacing, make sure that we're the ones that are actually doing it. We hear campaign after campaign, hey, we need to focus on roads, focus on roads. It's never happened. So I want to make that a priority. Second priority, I think, is the animal shelter. We started kind of seeing some ideas coming forward with that. We've got a groundbreaking process. But more than that, we need to look at alternative options for things. I looked at the animal shelter project. There's options out there like the Chronicle building that would come at a cheaper cost, which would allow us to use money in other areas to help the county.
We've got a number of priority infrastructure projects, certainly roads, road resurfacing, road capacity. That is a primary focus, and it's something that, that has been a focus every year since I've been on the board in 2006, when I was elected in 2016. It's simply incorrect to say we've talked about it but not prioritized it. We've put millions of dollars into roads every single year. Road capacity is important. We need to save our money. As long as we can come up with half, DOT will give us the other half. When I was in my first term in 2019, in fact, I was on this same stage. We didn't have the money for Highway 491. We went to the state. We got funding from the state to help do that. So that is something that's been in the works for a long time. We need to look at increasing the capacity, increasing lane miles along 491, along Cardinal. So those projects are in the works. Venable, that's another one. But you have a very
Ruthie?
Could you ask me the question again?
What are the greatest infrastructure needs of the county, and how do you prioritize them?
Well, the citizens always speak about the road resurfacing, but I want to talk about what is important to our county that I feel is our septic to sewer and getting that, because getting the people on old septic tanks that are on the waters, on the lakes, the rivers, that needs to be corrected. Otherwise, our huge industry, which is tourism, is going to be affected. Crystal River has done, and as I say that, Crystal River has done an amazing job at doing that and getting that infrastructure in place. We have put quite a bit of federal tax dollars into place for our public transportation, which gets people to work, gets them to, to jobs, so that, that needed to be done. And we have, as a board, looked at our priorities. There have been things in the works for 20 years. So to say that we have not been putting attention on the priorities of the roads, septic to sewer, our infrastructure, is just not true. Thank you.
One of the biggest things I've talked about for over 10 years is residential road resurfacing and repaving. It needs to be done. As of October 1st, when the 23-24 budget came out, not a single road has been resurfaced and repaved. All we've had are, you call in and they'll fix a pothole. So we need to address that. Also, every time I turn around, they say, well, look it up on the internet. The internet is part of the infrastructure. It needs to be throughout the entire county, and it needs to be at a reasonable price that all citizens, even the retired citizens, can afford. Because you can't look something up if you don't have internet. So that's the second thing that we have to look at. The roads is first, and getting everybody the chance to be able to communicate. Thank you.
Okay, how about question number 3, Garrett?
Citrus County is the only Florida county that has never added a local option sales tax. What is your position on a 1% sales tax focused on infrastructure needs that would raise approximately $24 million a year?
All right, the order. District 1, Jeff will go first, then Curtis, and in District 3, Ruthie, you'll go first, then Janet.
I would support the local option sales tax. I would imagine that it will be on the general election ballot for 2026. The issue is, and I've said this publicly from the dais, you have to find something that the public is going to support, because it's a ballot initiative that the voters get to cast their vote on. So whether or not it's all infrastructure, or whether or not you include purchasing lands for conservation, or whether or not we include public safety, or whether or not we include water quality projects in there, we need focus groups to figure out exactly what it is that the public would support. You put that project or that product together, bring it to the county commission, and then the county commission, I believe, will put it on the ballot for the voters to give it an up or down vote on. I personally, once we get that right product, that right mix in there, I would support it.
I would support it as well, and I think it's something that's long overdue in this county. We look at the burden that we have as taxpayers, homeowners here in Citrus County, but we're kind of ignoring the tourist portion of it, and the tourists would contribute to the sales tax option. I wouldn't support it for 100% roads infrastructure. I would look at opportunities for different funding for different things, such as my proposal would be like 33% for infrastructure, 33% for sheriff office, 33% for like a parks and rec to maintain some open space and make sure that we're preserving Citrus County.
Ruthie?
Thank you. My favorite question. 35 years I've collected sales tax across the state of Florida. I'm the only commissioner that to this date, right now, collects sales tax across the state of Florida. Every month, I total out what the discretionary sales tax is for the other counties that are collecting it, that we are not. We are the only one, and now where there's two of us because they've dropped the school board discretionary sales tax, but the only county for many years that does not use that tool. And there's going to come a time where Tallahassee says to us, if you don't use that tool, don't come asking me for money. We need to educate the citizens of how important discretionary sales tax is to our community and what we're missing out on. I have talked about this since 2018. I have gotten laughed at on the dais and called all different kinds of names. But one thing I know about is sales tax. And as a business, it's important because the tourism is not paying for our roads. We now have a target here that we're not collecting discretionary sales tax on. People are going to come from Ocala to our target and use our roads.
This is my favorite topic. I have been saying we need the 1% sales tax for God knows how many years. I've taken it to the board. It needs to be 1% for 4 years, residential road resurfacing and repaving only. The reason it failed last time when we did it was because they added and other things. The basic thing we need is 4 years of getting money for our residential roads and get that done. If at the end of 4 years we want to do other things, then we go back to the citizens for other things. It's a topic that you come to Citrus Springs, you can go on a road and guess what? You have flowers growing up in the road. You go to Pine Ridge. I've been in Pine Ridge, and those houses are nice and big and huge, and they have roads with grass growing up in it. You go down to Homosassa on Sugar Mill Woods.
This actually works. Question number 4, Grace.
Citrus County has experienced significant growth in both residential and commercial development in the past 4 years. What is your view for the future of this growth in our community over the next 4 years?
The order will be District 1, Curtis, then Jeff, District 3, Janet, then Ruthie.
So my view on growth is that at the moment we're kind of rubber stamping every development that comes forward. Very few projects that have been presented have been denied, and we're upzoning all over the place for these different projects. I feel they have a comprehensive plan, and if we want to argue that the comprehensive plan is out of date because it was built 30 years ago, we can have that discussion and bring it publicly and allow the public to have their input on what needs to be here and what needs to be where. I feel that going forward, we need to stick with the comprehensive plan, make sure that we're allowing projects that are allowed to be built by right on those specific pieces of parcels of property that they have, and allow those developments to be taken in place because they're allowed to build those by right. However, these larger complexes that are going to put strain on infrastructure, we need to have negotiations with developers. Why haven't we talked about concurrency? We got rid of that in 2011 for traffic. We haven't discussed bringing that forward. So we need to have these developers have these conversations with them and try to get them to help pay for the infrastructure projects.
Well, not to be confrontational, but that's simply not true. When a developer brings an application forward, it first goes through the staff review process. The staff tells them exactly what needs to happen. They give their opinion on it. From there, it moves on to the PDC. The PDC can attach any series of any number of amendments to it, any number of changes to that they would recommend, and then those recommendations, along with the application, come to the county commission. When that happens, that's another opportunity for the public to give input. The county commission at that point can put any additional conditions on it, or we can take conditions away that we feel appropriate. At that time, we can also tell the developer what it is that we would like to see them do for infrastructure changes, infrastructure improvements. So there's lots of opportunities for those things to happen before we actually approve it. There's simply not a rubber stamping going on. We have talked about concurrency. We can't get there because we have to bring all the roads up to current
Janet?
Residential growth needs to be watched very carefully. I live in Citrus Springs. And I was always told it was a PUD, Planned Unit Development. There is a builder that is looking at a section right now in Citrus Springs, and I'm going to go next Thursday to the PUD meeting, because the section they're looking at, they want to take what is a proposed park and build houses. They want to take what we already have, deed restrictions that say your house has to be a certain size. They want to put 8 houses per acre. 8 houses per acre. That's wrong. Okay, Citrus Springs was set up at 4 houses per acre. And I keep saying PUD, and I keep being told, no, it's not a PUD. Well, I'm going to go over there, and I'm going to take the list, and I'm going to take the deed restrictions that are from the state and from the county that show we have deed restrictions that they need to follow, and the PUD needs to make sure that if a builder's coming through, if there are restrictions.
You ready, Gary? Okay. As a native Floridian, I've watched development happen in my town in Sarasota. I've seen where there are mistakes. In Citrus County, when we moved up here 30 years ago, my husband and I bought 60 acres to hold on to a piece of Florida. The comp plan is being tweaked as each development comes. I am not for upzoning. I found that out when I became a commissioner. But the reason now we need to look at developments, that pieces of land that perhaps could be more dense and have green space around it. We can't keep just going of the mindset, we've done this for 40 years, 1 acre per plot. We need to look at different ways to make our county work, and we, as a board, we are doing just that. Our staff is phenomenal. The processes that Dr. Kennard just spoke about are working, but it isn't going to be like it was 20 years ago. We have to make an adjustment. We have been found. Thank you.
Okay, Garrett, question 5.
If elected, please explain your highest priority issue or project as a county commissioner.
And the order will be District 3, Ruthie, then Janet, and in District 1, Jeff, and then Curtis.
Thank you. My highest priority always has been the Inverness Airport Industrial Park, the business park. We need to bring businesses to this county. I thought the way it looks, we need to move the 50-year-old animal shelter and get it to the center of the county and do a presentation where we want to court businesses. Holder Industrial Park is another one that's sitting there just begging to be developed. We have to put the proper infrastructure in there, but as you know, we need money to do these things. So my number one project I would say the Inverness Airport Business Park and the animal shelter that will provide jobs, education, mental health, and we've got to get our young people jobs, quality jobs, not just service jobs. Thank you.
My priority has always been residential roads, so that would be my number one. But along with residential roads, we also have to worry about county roads. 491, we need to find where to get the funding to make it 4-laned all the way from Pine Ridge Boulevard down to 200, so that like she said, the Holder Industrial Complex can begin. The land was changed so that we could have industrial. We cannot support taxes in this county with just people. Property taxes will not support the county. We need to get businesses. You understand that as business people. We need to get industry in here so that industry pays taxes. And in order to keep our county growing and prospering, we need to do some roads, county roads, and a lot of them need to be 4-laned, and it is going to take money, so we need to start looking.
Jeff?
My highest priority would be expanding our healthcare delivery system. And that's exactly why I've been instrumental in working with the Florida WellCare Alliance in bringing medical students here from colleges outside of Florida. Nova, Southeastern University, Lincoln Memorial University. Those 2 colleges alone are sending roughly 18 medical students per year to circulate through our 2 hospitals and through the Florida WellCare Alliance physician offices. I was instrumental in starting that, instrumental in helping that get going. We need primary care physicians, we need specialists, we need additional healthcare delivery facilities. We have got an expanding population. That is not going to change for the foreseeable future. We have got to have more physicians here, we've got to have more facilities here, more specialists here. It's happening, we've got great people involved. We've got 2 great hospitals involved here, 2 giants in the healthcare industry. They will bring those folks here, and it's already happening.
My number one priority would be addressing the infrastructure problems that we have in Citrus County. We talk about wanting to bring more commercial businesses. We want to bring different complexes and different things here, but we don't have the infrastructure in place to be able to handle that. A lot of these businesses aren't looking at Citrus County because they don't want their employees to go through the roads that we have or sit in the traffic and things like that. So if we address the infrastructure issues that we have in Citrus County, we can grow smartly and bring a lot of those things in here. Number 2 would be looking at affordable housing. We currently only have 201 acres dedicated to high-density residential out of the 360,000 acres in Citrus County. We need to look at that. We need to do a comprehensive plan review on that and see where we can expand some of those areas and allow those developers to come in and build those projects here in Citrus County, which will help the base here as well.
Okay, we're going to change the game a little bit. For the next question, we're going to give each candidate 2 minutes to respond. Must be a really difficult question. But I'm going to let Grace ask it, and if you'd go ahead, then I'll give you the order.
What role do you feel the County Commission can and should play in addressing our affordable housing crisis, and how would you garner the necessary support?
We'll begin with District 3, Ruthie, and then Janet, and in District 1, Curtis, and then Jeff. Ruthie?
Thank you. I like to call it attainable housing because affordable housing scares people. But we need to get housing, and as a Board of County Commissioner, it's our job to make sure that the, pun intended, the roads are paved to bring businesses in here that want to provide those. And guess what that means? That means development. And that doesn't mean that this board loves developers, but we have to look at the issue. We have teachers, firefighters, nurses, deputies. My own daughters could not afford to live in this county right out of college with a master's degree, and if they don't have housing, we will die out as a county if we don't start courting somebody to come in here and do apartments, complexes for these young professionals. We need it, and it's our job to make us a welcoming county, to make sure that we're not putting up, again, pun intended, roadblocks to stop these businesses from coming here. I voted against one that was going into Meadowcrest. I didn't think it was well suited for that area. I didn't think it was set up properly. We have to find an area, and I believe we have that with Cardinal and that IMA and the overlay. We need to get these companies here, and we have to be welcoming and be business friendly, and that's what my role is as a county commissioner. Again, doesn't mean I love development, but we have to look at it. We have been found, it's important. I was rushing because I thought I had a minute, but I got 2. So, woo! That being said, every time I go to FAC, I go visit another county. When I go even to different states, I'm like, how are y'all handling and addressing workforce housing? You know, how are you doing this? What can we do to be better? And FAC has been a great resource for me. Thank you. And the chamber.
Well, there is land that is designated in Citrus Springs for apartments. As a Board of County Commissioner, I would like to get in touch with some of the developers that came to the meeting that we had the other week and say, hey, do you realize this land is already designated for apartments? And that would be a good thing for you to do. There are other lands throughout the county that are designated for multi-housing. Okay, I was president for Citrus Springs Civic Association. Before that, I was secretary, and I was also events coordinator. I know that when Habitat for Humanity first came to Citrus Springs, we were going to be doing something great. Habitat for Humanity does do something great. They make single-family homes affordable. And I'm sure that there have to be other agencies out there that would be the next step up, because Habitat, you only can make a certain amount of money. So there have to be some out there that we need to research and find out where they're at and get some of them over to Citrus County, because you can't afford a 2-bedroom at $1,200 a month if you're only making $1,400 after taxes. Teachers cannot afford to live in Citrus County, so they have to move. And where do they move? Marion County. Well, if you're in Marion County and there's an opening for a teacher, what are you going to do? You're going to give up your job in Citrus County and move to Marion County. So yes, the board needs to get with some of the developers and talk with them and say, listen, we have this available. Why don't you consider it? I talked to a developer at that one meeting the other week, and he said he'd love to know where the properties are. So it would be a good thing to maybe find out. Thank you.
Curtis?
So again, this goes back to a lot of the zoning issues that we have in Citrus County. Again, I'd mentioned about 201 acres or so is high-density residential. We currently don't have a location for these places to go. We need to talk with developers and see why they're not choosing to build these developments in Citrus County, and see what we can do to help facilitate some of that. A lot of the growth that we're seeing, we've seen over 180 projects in the last 8 years that come before the board, and less than 12 of those have had an affordable housing aspect to it. The Meadowcrest property we talked about, that was affordable housing initially. The company sold out, and now it's going to be a market rate housing complex there. And it was initially approved because it was affordable housing. So we need to look at different alternatives for that. We need to talk to the developers and see what would encourage them to come here. Maybe we'll look at tax credits or rebates. The state recently put into law legislation that allows them to take over commercial property, and they can put high-density housing and different things in that area and get tax credits if it's affordable housing. Part of this as well is infrastructure. Again, if we don't have the infrastructure, we talk about Cardinal as being an option. Anyone driven down Cardinal recently? Add 1,000 houses to that. We don't have the infrastructure in place. We need to focus on those things, and then the infrastructure build out will then allow those developers to come in and make it more enticing for them to build those places there. A lot of the places that we have here are mixed use housing. I did some research in the county or throughout the state. I have not found a single development that has mixed use in it that lowers property costs. Look at Newport Richey, look at Wesley Chapel. Buy a house in Wesley Chapel, it's $500,000. They're all mixed use properties. So we need to look at alternatives to mixed use with the development that we're seeing here in Citrus County, expand the infrastructure, and that will help and draw some of those things here.
I've actually sat on the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee here in the county for the past several years, so we have these conversations quite often, as well as listening in to meetings with other commissioners from other counties around the state on, as my colleague said, what they're doing to solve the problem. The good news is that there are some projects already in the works here in Citrus County. There is an affordable housing project that is happening out on Cardinal, actually right across the street from Walmart there. We will have some mixed use that will happen right out here in Lecanto, right behind the commercial development there. There are going to be residential units there. Further west, there will be multifamily housing there. The county's already engaged with those folks, what we can do to supplement the cost of building out the infrastructure there. So while these aren't necessarily things that are being plastered on the front page of the paper, you have a county commission that is actively involved in this, in paving the way, if you will, or laying the groundwork for developers to come in and build these types of units. We heard one of the developers a couple months ago come out and say, I didn't create the demand, I'm satisfying it. And that's exactly right. If your county commission lays the groundwork for them, they will come in and build these units, some of them at market rate, some of them at below market rate if they can get some help from the county to get there. If you were for those of us that attended the affordable housing meeting several weeks ago, I believe it's the chamber that put that on, we heard former Senator Jeff Brandes tell us repeatedly there's not enough government money to solve this problem. You need to lay the groundwork in your comp plan. Private industry will come in and take care of that problem. They have access to billions and billions of dollars. In the past, that has just not been a priority years ago. Your county commission at this point has actively been working at that, even in the face of tremendous criticism.
Okay, a new twist. We're going to ask a couple of questions, and we're going to call them rapid fire because we'd like you to answer in 1 or 2 words. In other words, we're not looking for a lengthy explanation. We'll quickly work through these, and there's only a few. So, are you for or against? And I'll start, we'll move from left all the way to the right on the first question. Are you for or against landfill expansion with the existing landfill area?
Yes.
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 That was easy. Are you for or against, we're going right to left, barge canal boat ramp?
Yes and no.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Maybe. Money, maybe money, depends.
We'll consider that wishy-washy.
It's definitely wishy-washy.
All right, thank you all for your responses. We're now going to conclude the forum by giving each of you 2 minutes for your closing. And once again, I actually have a different box for this. And let's see what order you're going to go in. We'll start with District 1. Jeff, you'll have the first 2 minutes, then Curtis, and then move to District 3. It'll be Janet, and then Ruthie.
In 2016, I stood on this stage at one of these forums as a candidate, and I made 2 promises. The first one was that we're not always going to agree, and that's been the case. The second promise I made was that every vote I cast will be because I believe it's for the best benefit for our community. That's also been true. In 2019, I stood at this podium as the chairman of the county commission and told you that at that time I believe we were on the cusp of very big things happening in our community. We've seen that happen over the past 5 years. At the end of that conversation, I remember there was one question from Josh Wooten, the guy that we all know, and well, we'll say the guy we all know. He said, "You're almost done with phase 1 of 491. When's phase 2 starting?" And I said, "Immediately, as soon as we're done." And on the way out of here, Randy Oliver said, "You got ahead of your skis there. We don't have the money to do it." I went up and met with a representative named Blaze Angola. I begged him for the money. He said, "You're the first person today to ask me for $13 million. I said, "You're the first person I've ever asked for $13 million. I went to Wilton Simpson. I asked him. I went to Representative Masulo. I asked him. That year, we got $13 million, and that's why you see that road getting finished out there. I have worked very, very hard for this community, both here at our regional boards, our regional transportation planning board, our regional water supply board. I've chaired both of those boards 2 different times during my tenure. I've worked very hard in Tallahassee, trying to get money out of Tallahassee, and we've been very successful at that because of the relationships that I've developed there. There's a mutual respect that I believe. I don't go to those folks and say, "This is my vision, this is what I need money for." I go to them and say, "What is your vision for helping us accomplish what we need to accomplish?" That's the way that we get there. Listening, doing less talking, and I feel like I've done a very good job of that over the past 8 years, and I hope to win your vote on August 20th. Thank you.
All right, so a little bit about me. I am a Citrus County resident. I've been here since 1991, about first grade. Went through public schools here in Citrus County, graduated Citrus High School 2002. I am an Eagle Scout as well. I've worked in the community all throughout my life. I probably cleaned up more roadsides here than everybody in this building, except for maybe Mr. Murphy over here. But I've been active in the community. I've been a part of it. I jumped into this race mostly because I'm afraid of what Citrus County is going to look like down the road. We're losing our small town charm. Growth rates, projected anywhere between 3 and 5% each year. If you guys have done the math on that, that doubles our population in 14 to 17 years. We have a lot of funding options in the county, SCOP funds being one of them. Those dry up once we hit 200,000 people, which is estimated in the next 4 to 6 years. So we make sure that we protect Citrus County, or make sure that we're thinking about things going forward. This 2024 election is one of the most important ones we've had in recent years. You guys get to decide what Citrus County looks like going forward in the future. Are you happy with what we've seen in the last 8 years, or do you want something to change for that? Are you happy with local government continuing to prioritize their own projects and not the infrastructure projects and things like that that have been often ignored? The priority has always been low taxes, not maintaining the investments that we've made in Citrus County. Or do you want to see change? Do you want to see someone fight to protect Citrus County that we've all come to love and enjoy? Do you want to see someone work to get those long neglected projects off the ground? Do you want to see new ideas and new perspectives brought to the board? The longer we wait, the more expensive it gets going forward here to solve these issues. I love what Citrus County is, and I want to protect our small town feel. I want to make sure we're using our tax dollars wisely by doing the required maintenance on our investments and bringing alternative ideas before we approve projects. I want to make sure growth actually pays for itself. You have a choice in 2024 of what Citrus County looks like going forward, and I hope that that choice is me, and I hope that you support me August 20th in the primary. Thank you.
My name is Janet Barrick. Some of you people don't know me, so I'm going to give you a real fast. I'm married 53 years. I have 3 children. I have 9 grandchildren and 9 great-grandchildren. But they're not running for office. I am. I'm the one that has been attending Board of County Commissioner meetings since approximately 2010. I read the agendas. I print out my own agendas rather than pick one up at the door. And I go through the backups. So I see what on the agenda jumps out at me and says, you need to know a little bit more about that. Okay, I am, I have been since 2006 very, very busy in this county. So the groups that I belong to are numbered, okay? Nature Coast Republican Club, I'm president. Citrus County Council, I was president for a year of Citrus County Council before it dissolved. Okay, I am the president of the Beverly Hills Irish American Social Club, of which I am very, very happy to be a member of. We go out every Friday to lunch to a different restaurant in Citrus County. We keep our money in Citrus County, so we, thank you, whoever has restaurants here. Okay, I was secretary for the Citrus Springs Civic Association, events coordinator for 8 years, and then I became president, and I was president for 4 years. I was the interim administrator for Beverly Hills Community Church until we merged with Dunellen Community Church. I had changed churches now to the Hernando United Methodist, where I am an active member. I try to keep my fingers going in all different areas, and I listen to people. I feel that the roads need to be done, not just Citrus Springs roads, but all the roads in Citrus County, the residential. And that, to me, has been a top priority for a long time. And I really have been, saying 4 years, 1 cent, residential roads only.
I'm just teasing her. I actually really like Janet. So as most of you know, I'm Ruthie Davis Slaybaugh. I have been a resident of Citrus County since 1995. My husband Jerry and I have a business, and we started coming to chamber mixers in 1995. I remember my very first one and being in awe of the business owners and how welcoming they were to us as a small business. I say that because we need to continue that welcoming attitude into our county. We're growing at about 5%, which is still low for the state of Florida. There's so many things I would like to say to you, but I feel like I have had this mission to be a politician most of my life. It was laid upon my heart. I ran away from it. But when I look back at the last 4 years, I truly believe that I was built for this job. I'm 8 of 9 children of a strong Irish Christian family. Nobody's going to push me around. I'm going to fight for every one of you. I don't back down. I got the stuffing kicked out of me for 6 months trying to get an animal shelter passed, and I never, ever gave up because I believed it was the right thing to do. I feel like I'm a polite person, so I'm very welcoming to people, but I will also go to Tallahassee and let them know, don't you forget Citrus County. I let them see my face, and through that, we have been able, this board, to get tens of millions of dollars and from Tallahassee. People around the state are jealous of what we have accomplished. This board has fostered an environment for businesses to thrive, local businesses, which is all of y'all here. We've approved animal shelters, road resurfacing, getting our employees pay raises that they didn't get for almost 11 years. Come on, you can't run a business like that. So like I said, I feel like I'm built for this job. I want to continue this job. So thank you, and please vote for me on August 20th or before, Ruthie Davis Slaybaugh. Thank you.
Well, we would really, on behalf of the chamber, we really want to thank all of our candidates today for their time, their dedication, and their willingness to serve the citizens of our county. We also want to thank what I'm calling the G team, Gary, Garrett, and Grace. And it says on my script, thanks to the most beautiful, intelligent, and passionate person in the room, Ardith. We thank you all for making this forum possible. I'd like to turn the podium over now to John Murphy, the chair of the Chamber's Government Affairs Committee. John?
Well, thank you, Dr. Harvey. Appreciate it. I would be remiss if I didn't remind you of some very important dates. First and foremost, my assumption is everybody in here is already a registered voter. If not, shame on you first and foremost. But also, July 22nd, that's the deadline. I also want to remind you that, not only the county commission race, but most of the races for Citrus County, most of the local races will be decided in the primary. So it is imperative that you participate in the primary. I was speaking with Supervisor of Elections, the office, the other day, and they said they top out at like 30% turnout for a primary. That's pathetic, and you guys can do better because really we will have most of the races decided in this primary. Some dates to remind you of. Early voting will begin on August the 9th, and it runs through every day through August 17th. August 17th is also my birthday, just so you know. And then the primary is August the 20th. So with that, I do have a couple quick reminders, and I'm going to invite Corinne to come up here for the 50-50. That's why you guys are all still sitting there. And, we are a member-driven organization, right? We've got more than 1,000 local businesses that are members, and we represent many more thousands of Citrus County residents that are employees of those businesses. And time again, we have local businesses that step up when we ask them to. So first, I want to give a huge thank you and round of applause to our friends at Digital Hound Media for producing today's video. Thank you guys so much. And their efforts would not have been possible without the sponsorship of Meek Realty. So Amy and Meek Realty, thank you guys so much for that. You guys have a great afternoon.